And welcome to another chapter of East LA Sports Scene, coming right back into the Boyle Heights Technology and Youth Center. And as has always been, our primary goal and objective is to bring to our viewers here in East Los Angeles, Boyle Heights and beyond, members of our community who have done outstanding community services, whether they have been coaches, whether they have been teachers, you name it, anything that's been involved in helping our kids through sports as a vehicle, as a medium, to get to the next levels and get that education up on into college and get their degrees. That's what we talk about here in East LA Sports Scene, and it's going to be a very, 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 I want to say a rare but a distinct opportunity to have in our studios with us for, quite some time, Coach, I want to call him Coach affectionately, John Aguirre, but he is actually the commissioner in his new endeavors with the LA City under CIF LA City section. He is the commissioner, and we welcome him back to East LA Sports Scene. John, how are you?
Rico, I'm fine. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much for coming in, Coach, because we have been, again, numbering a lot of individuals who played key roles in developments of the sports programs here in East Los Angeles and beyond. And of course, you stand out as a coach of the Garfield Bulldogs. That's when we first met.
Thank you. Thank you. You talk about developing programs and offering kids from East LA opportunities for achievement in academics through athletic participation, and that's really what the CIF is all about. And I've made that my life commitment and mission to provide a service to not only my community now, but throughout the Los Angeles area, and looking to incorporate those ideas and concepts of building an education-based athletic program in every school that we service. And we're currently over 135 schools. So there's a large effect on a lot of kids, and hopefully for the betterment.
And John, we are certainly keeping our eyes on your office and your endeavor and your leadership in that capacity. And we're going to develop that. We're going to talk about that towards the end of the program. But in all fairness, for many of your colleagues, many of your former players that were impacted by you as a coach, and those that are watching East LA Sports Scene for the first time, we always give a profile of our guest because many times that person is from the community. And again, here we are, Boyle Heights in East Los Angeles.
That's right.
John, let's talk a little bit about your beginnings and how sports motivated you to stay on that path.
Well, I grew up in Boyle Heights. I lived in Estrada Courts.
Okay.
As a very young kid, I remember always playing, outside with somebody. But organized sports came into my life probably about when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, playing baseball for the Resurrection Athletic League.
Yes.
And or CYA. Where's the CYO?
CYO.
CYO.
It's probably changes. Yeah. Yes, of course.
And so I think that was one of the key moments in my life that changed my direction. I mean, obviously, growing up in the projects, you see a lot of negativism. You see a lot of struggles and challenges, and you see a lot of kids making very poor decisions and using poor judgment. I think it gave me some hope and ambition. Probably didn't have the talent I needed to be successful in athletics, but I think it gave me a direction of something I enjoyed, and I pursued it.
Okay. And I affectionately refer to you as coach because when we were at East LA Sports Scene covering the Garfield and Roosevelt classics many, many times, it was always Coach Aguirre.
Well, I've been away from the game for about 10, 11 years, so when you say coach, I sort of look behind me. But it's an honor. I mean, when I run into kids that I've coached before, I say kids, some of them are 40 years old now probably, and and they call me coach. That's an honor and a privilege, and I take it that way.
Okay, well, I'll do my best now. John Aguirre, and again, he is our guest, and we're going to continue to go down memory lane to the degree that will give you an in-depth look at how a young man, a youngster, growing up in Boyle Heights, then most likely through parents encouraging you to stay in sports and go to school. Talk a little bit about how that kept you going.
Well, I come from a single parent, my mother. My father was out of the picture from when I was very young.
Okay.
So she was a very strong woman, and I'm being the youngest in my family of seven.
Oh,
I was the one that she had probably the most hope for.
okay.
And when I was about 11, 12 years old, we moved out of Boyle Heights to East LA.
Mm-hmm.
Her trying to get me away from some of the problems that my brothers and sisters experienced.
Sure.
And that helped me also, put me in a
Mhm.
different environment, made me think of things a little bit differently.
Mhm.
There was a comfort zone that I was in,
Sure.
living in Boyle Heights, and
Mhm.
I had to challenge myself to step out of that comfort zone and look at other challenges.
Okay.
I think in the long run, that's probably driven me at every turn of the way, because every time you change a school or change a career or try to advance yourself, there's a comfort zone
Mhm.
involved.
Oh, that-
And
right,
you
right.
have to challenge yourself to go beyond that and,
Okay.
and see that you can achieve some greater
Mhm.
things.
Very, very positive decision by your mom
Yes,
to make that move in the interest of the children.
that's right.
So a lot of props to your mom. And in many cases, you see a lot of our kids in the same predicament or same situation today, Coach.
Yeah,
That
that's
mom
true.
or dad.
Well,
is-
you know, I growing up in Estrada Courts, I started selling newspapers, working from a very
Mhm.
young age,
Sure.
and I've probably continued to work all my life since then.
Okay.
So that's another aspect or quality that my mother showed me or
Mhm.
demanded from us is to keep yourself busy,
Yeah.
doing something productive.
Okay. Quickly, educationally, Coach, I see Lorena Street Elementary and then Griffith Junior High and then on
That's
to
right.
Garfield. Let's
That's correct.
go right through that if we
Okay.
can real quick. And
Lorena Elementary, don't remember much. I was there when John F. Kennedy, everybody always says you remember where you were when he passed.
Okay.
And I do, November
Yes.
22nd,
Right.
1963. I was at nutrition.
Okay.
And, you know, other than that, there's not a lot of other memories coming from that school.
Mhm.
Growing up again and getting home, going to work, that type of thing.
Sure.
Didn't spend a lot of time studying.
Okay.
Probably never read a book from
Oh.
start to finish until I got to college.
Ah.
So it was a challenge to achieve academically, and
Mhm.
however I did have some aspirations. But
Sure.
Lorena was a place where I met a lot of people that were very similar to me, felt very comfortable,
mhm.
and I think the teachers there really had a good heart. But the one person I remember the most from Lorena Elementary happens to be the custodian.
Ah.
Who caught me one day throwing some spit wads out of the window and made me work with him for a
Okay.
week.
Yes.
Well, that week turned into 3 years.
Oh.
And we had a great relationship.
Wonderful.
And he taught me a lot about, you know, just trying your best, setting higher standards and those type of things, and
Okay.
working, no matter what your position is,
Yes.
you work as hard as you can and you treat people respectfully.
Oh.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then, Coach, into Garfield.
Garfield High
Well,
School.
I don't want to
before
skip
then,
middle school.
yeah,
They were
middle
those
school.
then.
Yeah.
Back then, it was the junior high.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And
Went to Griffith Middle School. Actually started there toward the end of my 7th grade year.
Okay.
And the person I remember the most from Griffith Middle School was my PE teacher,
ah.
who was really the first to give me that, I don't know, satisfaction of saying, you can do this.
Oh,
And saying, you know, you got some potential there as an athlete.
mhm.
And pushing you, that type
Right,
of thing. So
right.
Mr. Tybeck, George Tybeck.
Wonderful.
And lost contact with him,
Okay.
obviously, but he's one of those guys that put a little spark in me.
Wonderful to hear that. And then now, Garfield.
Garfield,
And
yeah.
you're an athlete. You're a student athlete at
Yeah,
Garfield.
student athlete. Had a lot of friends that I remember and to this day keep in contact with from
Mhm.
Griffith and Garfield. But we had a lot in common, you know, and
Mhm.
again, I think the challenges of participating in athletics, of representing your community and your school, and just the fun and camaraderie that
Oh,
you
yeah.
gain from the people around you. I still remember those times.
Okay.
I used to think we were probably one of the best teams that Garfield ever had until I started coaching there, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, we'll get into that coaching
Yeah.
as well. But, Coach, let's talk about also the beyond Garfield. We're going to kind of
Yes.
zoom up into the
Okay.
educational stratosphere for
Yeah.
you and into East LA College and then beyond. Let's go from there.
Well, coming out of Garfield, I joined the Navy, actually. And I
Okay.
spent 2.5 years away. Came back, immediately enrolled into East LA College, and my goals were to become a teacher and
Mhm.
a PE teacher and a football coach.
Okay.
And that was my motivation.
Ah.
I was ill prepared and very challenged coming in.
Mhm.
I failed every class I took my first semester.
Wow.
And I was also stubborn and determined.
Mm.
So I took the same teachers, the same classes in the second semester, and had some success, and found out, hey, I can do this.
Okay.
And as it went on, I got better and better. And by the time my junior year came around, I don't think I ever received anything less than an A in a class from that point on. So
Okay.
it's learning how to be a student, really.
Mhm.
And I didn't have that experience. I think I was into a lot of well, I should say I didn't have that role model that showed me how. I didn't have that person that took me under their wing and said, this is how it's done. I had no concept of
Oh, wow.
what it took to achieve in an academic arena.
Mhm.
And so I had to learn that. And
Okay.
I learned it probably the hard way, but I learned it.
Okay. And speaking right now with John Aguirre, and he up close and personal, and really one of the very, very few occasions and times that we've had a chance to pause and look back on what we want to deem to be a very, very profound career. We're just at the beginning, John, because as I mentioned at the top of the program, the position you hold now is just is one of the most powerful in our eyes here in the community, because you represent not only schools, you represent community who supported you and looked at you for many years in
Yep.
support of your career and what you're doing now for many, many schools throughout the LA Unified. But this is home, East
Yes.
LA. So we have that
It is.
special extra affinity to get the story and hear you talk about how it's been for your life to
Yeah.
be where you are now. Let's go from then East LA College coaching.
Mhm.
Or was there some other
Cal State LA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Went in, the challenges at East LA, I think the thing that sealed the deal for me was when I was able to take physiology, anatomy, and some accelerated math classes and do
Mhm.
well. But English was something I struggled with,
Okay.
and tried to overcompensate by taking English classes continually while I was in college.
Mhm.
And once I got through those courses, I felt I was ready and moved on to and graduated from East LA and went on to Cal State LA.
Mhm.
Was able to fit right in and felt that I had a smooth transition all the
Okay.
way to graduation from the university.
Okay.
And coming out of the university, I got hired right away into a high school teaching position, coaching position
Mhm.
with Montebello Unified Schools at Bell Gardens High School. I transitioned from there a few years later for a couple of years to San Gabriel High School,
Okay.
and eventually worked my way into LAUSD with Stevenson Middle School,
Ah.
and spent a couple of years there. Transitioned over to Roosevelt High School,
Ah.
where I was the
Okay.
dean of students.
Nice.
I was still coaching on a part-time basis at other schools outside the district, but at Roosevelt, I basically was the dean of students on a full-time basis.
Okay.
I transitioned from there in 1989 to Garfield High School,
Okay.
and became an assistant coach with Steve Robinson,
Okay.
and eventually transitioning into the head football coach at Garfield High School.
Okay, we're going to pick it up from there, John. In a second, we're going to take a quick break and advise all of our viewers, don't go away. We have two more parts here. We're going to try to break this down into three consecutive segments with John Aguirre. Affectionately, I still want to call him Coach, okay? But nonetheless, we're here with him, and he's given his time to tell the story, and that's what we're all about here in East LA Sports Scene. We're going to be right back with part two in just a moment. Don't go away. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Speaking with John Aguirre, and he is the commissioner for the CIF Los Angeles City section. And of course, we'll give you more information on how to reach them on their website. It's going to be very simple to gain more information on what Mr. Aguirre does in terms of his position as a commissioner. But if you're just picking it up now, we're talking about now Coach or John Aguirre at Garfield High School under Coach Steve Robinson. And here he is, ready to start his career as a football coach. And John, the preparation preparation for that. It just, you didn't mean that you just came and here you are. You had to do a lot of, as they say, research and prep.
Well, it's funny when people find you in a position of success and, well, where did he come from, or how did he get there, that type of thing. Well, truth of the matter, or truth be told, I was a football coach for 17 years before I got to Garfield High School.
Okay.
And I felt those years is really what prepared me for what was going to come, and prepared me for knowing what it took to be successful, and what was the program going to be like? What was the design of it? How was it going to be influential with these kids? What was going to be my philosophy?
Yes.
And what was I really trying to do? I truly believe that to be successful as a football coach, you have to have, number one, knowledge, because kids are going to respect that knowledge, and you can't fake that.
Right.
So you have to do your homework and have the background and do your study and take the time to go and learn from somebody you respect. And, I made those efforts. You have to be organized and prepared. And that takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And there were times I would spend, hours upon hours doing my research, or doing a game preparation or practice preparation, or out of season doing preparation for what we're going to do and how we're going to get there. So that when kids came, they knew they were walking into something that was organized, and they knew where they were going from day one to day 365.
Okay.
So those were things I think that were critical. The other issue is developing relationships with kids is critical. You have to understand where they're coming from, what they're bringing with them, the baggage they carry on a daily basis, and try and support them the best you can, and find out what are their needs, what resources do they need to be successful in school, and making their education the primary focus. It was never about winning football games. It was about winning kids, and I learned that statement from Steve Robinson. And when you win kids, you're going to have kids who are going to be successful, and it's not only successful on the football field, but in the classroom, at home, in the community, and in the school at large. So those are the things I think coaches need to strive for, and that's what we try and preach. And on top of that, you can't be just driving with no fun or ultimate vision for what you want to accomplish. So you got to instill some fun in it. Be creative. Take the resources you have and utilize them to the best of your advantage. Take the kids that you have and utilize them to the best of the advantage of the team for its success, and get them to buy into the team concept of success, the perseverance, the desire, the striving to achieve and overcome all obstacles, and that's what's going to drive them in their life, as what drove me in my life. And I think some of those experiences that I brought of failure is what allowed me to be successful in the end.
Okay. Wow. Very revealing. And true. In your case, that is, as I say, one of the keys to success.
That's right.
Being able to see the reality and deal with it and move effectively and cope with it.
And having that vision, you got to give kids, they got to see where they're going, and what they normally do in that comfort zone again is not always going to get them there. So they got to take themselves outside of that comfort zone. And for a long time at Garfield, and I was very happy at Garfield. I felt very comfortable there. I felt respected. I felt accomplished. But I was in a comfort zone. And after, several years, I was there for 10 years, I got to the point where, hey, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to move on to the next challenge and see where I can go.
And Coach, kind of staying with this, Coach Robinson in memoriam for all of the outstanding things that events and all the outstanding, what can I say, the education, the imprint that he left on his players, unfortunately, passed away.
Yes,
and another challenge for you, taking over the head coaching job in that type of environment, knowing that a dear friend has passed. And
he was. We had a special relationship. We were very good friends, got along very well, and he suddenly passed, and it was put into my lap. But I felt prepared. I felt ready for it. I don't think we skipped the beat. I was inheriting a very good team, which the challenge was to keep keep that standard.
Yeah.
And I think we raised it. We
Okay.
raised the bar somewhat, and we continued on.
Coach, some of the highlights of your tenure at the helm, head
Mhm.
coach of Garfield. Anything outstanding? Anything that jumps out at you or stays with you longer than?
5 consecutive victories over Roosevelt.
Okay. Okay. All right.
You know, we won, back then it was a conference which they merged 2 leagues together. We won that title twice.
Mhm.
We would have been Eastern League champions all the years I was there, had
Okay.
it just been the Eastern League.
Mhm.
I think our only loss to an Eastern League opponent was a loss to Southgate one year,
Okay.
and that was about it. So I felt we were successful, but you know, the accomplishments are today in walking into some of the kids I coached and asking them, you know, what are you doing today?
Mhm.
And the responses I get are incredible. I was invited to speak at a summit, an education summit at USC, where there was going to be 5 other panelists. And one of the panelists, they said, was a physician.
Ah.
And so, okay.
Okay.
So I show up, and that physician happened to be my middle linebacker, and Tony Zamorano.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
And
Wow.
Tony's sitting there, and my talk was a lot of similar things I'm saying today, how to motivate and get kids to inspire and challenge themselves. And his talk was his football coach and what he did to inspire. So
Yeah.
it's inspiring to me to walk into guys and, you know, who are policemen, FBI agents, or
Mhm.
politicians, or engineers, or teachers, and coaches.
Yes, yes.
So that's the inspiration for me and the accomplishment.
Okay. Speaking again with John Aguirre, and he is certainly has a resume that you'll need to take a very good look at, because it's just laced with so many achievements and so many other things besides football.
Yeah.
John, and because of the seasonal situations at high schools, was there time for you to coach other sports besides football?
Early in my career, and had more to do with monopolizing
Okay.
or monetizing, I should say,
Mhm.
and just making money and coaching four different sports.
Sure.
Usually within 1 year, you coach 3 sports. In the fall, it was football. In the winter, it was soccer, and in the spring, it was either baseball or track.
Mhm.
And you know,
Sure.
I worked at various high schools early in my career. But once I became a defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator or head coach,
Mhm.
I no longer had the time, because there is no off season.
Oh, yeah,
You're-
true,
You're
true.
going year round, and you
Okay.
pretty much have to be committed, because you're the model of what's going to happen.
Okay. 10 years at Garfield and 10 well-spent years. As they say, you couldn't ask for a better environment to learn a craft. And, Coach, you did that to the ultimate degree. But time stopped and time moved on.
Right.
So from Garfield, the trail goes to...
Actually,
Another.
I transitioned to Bishop Amat as a football coach,
Mhm.
and I stood a couple of seasons at Bishop Amat. My son happened to be a senior in the first year I got there, and I worked on that staff as defense coordinator.
Okay.
We had 2 great years, making the semifinals in the Division I for Southern Section.
Mhm.
You know, only lost a couple of games through those 2 years, and had a great experience, learned a lot of football. You know, when you're playing high caliber teams week in and week out, and you have to prepare for them, there's a lot of studying involved and a lot of time spent understanding what they're doing.
Sure.
So I learned a lot of football during those couple of years,
Mhm.
in addition to what I had already known. Again, I was teaching at Garfield, coaching at Bishop Amat. There was a lot of travel involved, and
Sure.
got a little bit consumed with that, and felt that it was time to coach at the school I was working at. And
Okay.
opportunity arose at Carson High School, and
Yep.
applied for it, and you know, was selected as the head coach in 1999.
Okay, and let's pick it up to round this segment out, Coach, segment 2. Your coaching highlights or coaching career there at Carson, because it's, again, very well documented and very well noted of the success.
It was a phenomenal experience. You know, I came from East LA, where, you know, 99% of the kids I was working with are Latino, into an environment that was multicultural and very diverse. And and I enjoyed every minute of it. You know, I learned a lot about kids and people and relationships and culture, and had a great time with everybody. Stepped into a phenomenal group of young men that were exceptionally talented athletically, and we were able to go on and win the city title that first year there.
Oh, okay.
Win the league title, the city title. We ended up winning 5 league titles in a row, going to the city finals 3 times and winning 2 of those. And it was a great experience. And I believe our overall record over the 5-year span was 51-13.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how many titles were brought home?
We had 2 city titles and 5 league titles.
Okay. Some of the players that maybe
As a matter of fact, there was
that went on to higher
yeah,
callings, maybe
yeah.
Division 1, 2, or 3, or NFL.
Wendell Hunter was an inside linebacker for Cal Berkeley. Morris Malele and Norris Malele was an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman at Cal Berkeley also. I had about 21, 22 kids going to Division I schools, several linemen. At one point, every lineman had 6 different linemen within a 2-year span go on to D1 scholarships. I was able to continue watching kids play football that I had coached for several years after I left Carson. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Okay. And Coach, we're going to take a break here, but in a moment. But in your research, your study, your passion for the game, always learning, there had to be mentors, people that you met at either coaches' clinics or just in certain educational settings or seminars, and those influencers, whether they were football coaches or others. I'll ask you that. Someone certainly got your attention.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. That changed my life.
Sure.
In terms of those people who I felt really influenced me, number one, my mother, who was a strong lady and you know, gave me some guidance that held true once I started listening to it. In terms of football coaches, Pete Carroll has been very inspiring to me. I developed a relationship with him when he was at USC and was able to learn a lot in terms of his philosophy and his approach and some of the things he cared about, and beyond just the wins and losses in football. But his style and the way he went about organizing his program, it's just second to none. And I took a lot from him in terms of trying to put it into my program. I tried to emulate the best, and I felt that the college level was as close as to the high school level as you can come, but they did it at in a better way. And so I tried to emulate people that I respected, and Pete Carroll was one of them.
All right, we're going to take another break here and come back with our third and final segment here, speaking with John Aguirre and his position right now, of course, the commissioner of the CIF-LA City Section here for the greater Los Angeles Unified School District, and we're going to be back with more in just a moment. This is East LA Sports Scene. Okay, welcome back, and here we go now with our third and final segment, speaking with the commissioner of the CIF-LA City Section, John Aguirre, and it's been a quick look back to the past, and then now to the present. We want to get into the current state of affairs and what John is doing as the commissioner and his present position with the city section. So, John, we were talking about the interim period in between your commissioners. Position, and that was also spent learning again, and being aware of what that position would encounter. And you were the assistant commissioner back in 2007.
Yes.
And let's kind of ease into that and go on to your present.
I transitioned from a football coach to the assistant commissioner's position. I was offered an opportunity to go back to college and get my master's degree, which I did. And so I stopped coaching. My last game I coached was the city championship in 2003. And that following year I started college in my master's program.
That was at Cal State?
Dominguez Hills.
Okay, Dominguez
right.
Hills, yes.
And because I was working at Carson High School at the time.
Mhm.
And completed that, and shortly thereafter applied for an assistant commissioner position with the Los Angeles Unified School District to work downtown with Barbara Figge, the commissioner, who
Yes.
was in that position for 20 years until she retired. And that was an incredible experience. She's an incredible lady with great amount of patience, great amount of with a great vision of what Los Angeles schools should offer for their students in terms of athletic programs. And during the several years that I was in the office with Barbara, I think we went through a significant transition in modifying things, to the extent of the Los Angeles City section leaving the Los Angeles Unified School District and becoming a nonprofit, private, independent organization, of which I'm currently the commissioner. It's been an extreme challenge to continue on with what we've been doing as a Los Angeles Unified School District entity, and to provide all the same services and same opportunities for our kids. I think one of the biggest challenges was getting started as a business. You know, all the licenses involved, hiring the employees, and those are things I really wasn't trained to do, but had to learn how on the run. I think in terms of my vision for the section, that's a very clear vision, and that is to provide educational-based athletic programs, increased opportunities for students within our section, and the increased opportunities can come in a lot of ways. My main job is to know the rules and apply them. So I need to interpret and understand what's going on and apply the rule as it should be applied. I think you can do that in ways that can provide opportunities for kids, and also understand what rules have a true purpose and meaning, and what rules don't. And when you can have influence on changing some of those rules, I think then you have influence on some kids becoming eligible to participate and increasing those opportunities. I think increasing opportunities for various levels. We've just increased, we recognize the frost-soft level for any school that wants to provide that. So we're giving a little bit more of the decision-making to the high school. You have some schools that have the participation to the numbers that can offer a varsity level, junior varsity level, and a frost-soft level. And you have others that are struggling just to offer the varsity level in terms of numbers showing up for the team. So we want the school to make those decisions, and our concept is from the coach to the school to the section to the state. And I missed out one, league. So it's the coach, the school, the league, the section, to the state. And we're sort of the conduit that works that information both directions, whether it's rules, whether it's opportunities, whether it's decisions and enforcement or violations. So I think the more consistent we can be with those type of things, and the more opportunity we can grant the school to make their own decisions within the rules, I think the more opportunities are going to be permitted for the students to participate. Now you design the programs so that they can be a resource, a support, and an influence on the student's achievement, academic achievement. Now you have something that's going to increase student attendance, student school participation, GPAs, and graduation rates. And I think that's what school is supposed to be all about, in preparing our children for the next phase in their life, whether it be college or the workforce.
And John, your improvements, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see more of a transparency, more resiliency to reach out and give information to the public via your website. It's very, very informative. You can see playoff grids, brackets, league reviews, coaches' input, parent input, and to me, that's a major step.
That's one of our goals, is to provide information, but not only information, but everything about what we're doing. It needs to be out there. We want to try and provide also opportunities in more sports, more playoff opportunities, more championships. We've increased our baseball playoffs participation by increasing the number of divisions we have, by increasing the number of teams that are allowed in each division into the playoffs. And we've done that in baseball, in football, in softball, in soccer. So we're trying to also provide opportunity for schools that maybe traditionally don't get to the playoffs,
Yes.
by creating strength-based division alignment, and allow the best of the best to compete against each other, and maybe those that haven't fared so well to gain that confidence so they can start competing a little bit better, but get that playoff experience and feel proud of yourself.
Sure.
I know this last year was our first year with a Division III football championship. Playoff and championship.
Right.
And I mean, that was a big deal for the schools that made that championship game.
Yes, it was.
Polytechnic High School and View Park High School. They were proud to be there, and they should be.
And Torres made it to the semifinals.
And Torres made it to
So
semifinals,
there's
yes.
more involvement.
And that brings the school spirit. With school spirit, you're going to increase school participation, increase the kids' desire to be at school and get that education.
And the other thing, Coach, about being informative is because so many legislative things happen
Oh, boy.
in the off season, and then it's time to start the teams to get practices and coaches needing to know what are the rules, what are the new guidelines.
Yeah.
And through your office, you put those out.
We do. We meet with every sport prior to the season with all coaches. It's a required meeting, and we'll review all aspects of whether it's NFHS rules, which are the game rules, CIF rules, which are our eligibility and who can play and who can coach and those type of things, and when you can practice and how you can practice. And we review the LAUSD rules because they have their own policies and procedures as well to get the coaches to understand. We make sure the coaches understand what their requirements are in order to coach. There's coaching requirements. So we'll bring in the officials, instructional chairperson to reiterate any changes in rules, whatever the points of emphasis might be for that year in that particular sport. We'll bring in a doctor and have him speak on concussion or serious injuries or current trends and those type of things. This year at the football coaches meeting, we're going to have Curtis Conway come in to speak to them from a parent perspective of what coaches should be thinking about and what their responsibilities are to the parent and to the student. So we're always looking for new ideas and new ways to get messages across for coaches to take that challenge and create an environment that is positive, that is educational, and that is motivating to the students.
Okay. And Coach, you're right in the mix of, you're right in the mix of the new school, the growth of the LA Unified School District.
Right.
How to factor those communities into the sports program.
Well, that was a major effort for the last 5-6 years, of which I've been involved with athletics in the section. We went from the original 49 teams in football to over almost 83 teams now, and which created a growth of not only what divisions they're in, what size schools they are, but what league are they in. We've doubled the size of our leagues, and that growth has really been a lot of work for the office and for coordinating and for a lot of people who are involved. And again, we rely on our schools, we rely on our leagues to be the voice of what should we be doing, how should we be doing it, and we take that voice and we try to implement that when we can.
Yes.
Not every time you can, and sometimes you have conflicting interests, and other times you have to make decisions, but we try and make it work for the best way that the schools, who should know best, want and desire it to work.
And last but not least, John, the ability for local teams here like a Garfield or a Roosevelt, possibly a Torres at some point in the near future, but the opportunity to play in a state tournament.
Yeah.
that never existed before. And
right.
just recently, that's come to fruition.
Yeah, it's growing continually. There's a master plan with the state CIF in bringing in state either regional championships or state championships. And I was fortunate to come in the office and be involved in the coordinating and organizing of the first state championship in football, of which has been a great success. This past year, we've expanded to 5 divisions, Division 1, 2, 3, and 4, and an open division.
Yes.
And we play here at the StubHub Center.
Yes.
And it's this past year was probably the most successful one we've had, but it's continually been growing, and I think at some point in time it's just going to be a super big event. And they're doing a lot of right things with the Time Warner contract and that partnership.
Yes.
And the exposure that it's gaining through that, the buy-in from all the sections into what we're doing and how we're doing it, and just the vision that they have for expanding it. But now it's expanded to soccer. We've just grown in soccer to 5 divisions. Wrestling, what else? Tennis, volleyball. Next year, I believe we're bringing in swimming. So we have also the track championships. That's probably one of the older championships that we have, and the cross-country championships. So we're continually expanding. I know there's some other sports that are coming in as time goes on, but the state does have a plan for what we're going to be doing.
Coach, and your job never stops.
Never.
Vacation, though. You have to have a vacation.
Yeah. Actually, I do have a vacation coming up. I'm going to be taking off to Alaska.
Okay.
Do some fishing for a few days, and hopefully I get lucky and catch a few.
Okay. So similar to what the school year might be, you have to, let the normal 9 months of the year go, or?
Well, no, I'm a 12-month position,
okay.
And we work year-round. And once we finish this school year, we get started for the next school year. And there's always work to be done, and planning, and more planning.
And as I mentioned, your website.
Yes.
A very, very effective tool, communication tool.
Yes.
To the community.
Yes.
And I believe it's LA.
CIF-LA.org.
Okay. One more time, John?
CIF-LA.org.
Okay. And they can find
all the information
right
everything about our section should be there. We're constantly trying to update it, and we provide current news. We have our calendar on there. There's brackets. It's pretty user-friendly now. I mean, that was a struggle to get it that way, but I think we've headed in the right direction.
And is there a section for, say, parents that might want to write a letter or ask a question of your office?
There is. You can go in there, and there's anybody that wants to write a question, it comes directly to me. And either I will answer it or one of my employees will answer it. There's also Facebook and Twitter account, and we have another. It's another website that's basically a fan page.
Okay.
So.
And it's all there.
Yes.
For the viewers and public to see and to appreciate. And we look up at the clock, and that's always our enemy on East LA Sports Scene. John,
if I can add one little thing real quick, a quick plug. We're a nonprofit organization, and obviously it takes a lot of money to do what we do with our schools, and we're trying to reduce the cost for our schools, and the only way we do that is through sponsorships.
Okay.
And anybody out there that wants to promote education-based athletic programs and encourage our students to achieve greater things, to overcome the obstacles, your support is desired. And you can contact us or myself at jaguirre@cif-la.org. That's my email, and I'll be more than willing to contact you back.
And there you have it right there from our very own native son of Boyle Heights in East Los Angeles, John Aguirre, and serving as the present commissioner for the CIF LA City Section. John, it's been a pleasure having you back.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure for me to come back home.
And we're glad to receive you with open arms here. As they would say, or we would always say, mi casa es su casa. And we wish all the best to you and your family, John.
Thank you.
And, of course, your staff and the hardworking and dedicated employees you have with you down in the office. And we will continue the story.
Sounds great.
Okay, with the consent from you, and anytime we are able to do more on your office and have you come back in, we certainly want to invite you.
Anytime, Rico.
Okay.
Anytime.
Well, that will do it for Eric Sarney, Rico Cabrera, producing this special edition of East LA Sports Scene. Thanks for watching. And again, remember, you can do it. Si se puede. Get out there and get that workout in. Stay healthy. You will be wealthy, whether you're on the field of play or you're swimming or you're biking or hiking, whatever it is. Stay healthy again. You will be wealthy. We'll see you on our next edition of East LA Sports Scene. Thanks for watching.